AED also has the benefit of being pegged to the US dollar. So I think that improves, just the experience and I think costs quite significantly.
What regulation, in your opinion, makes a difference here in the UAE?
How are we going to localize what we may have in the existing financial regulations and tailor it to having digital assets as an activity where financial institutions can offer crypto? And the ADGM setup is really ideal for a large global business such as Binance with over 300 million users. This is, I think, making it the path of least resistance to, from your own bank account, deposit funds at no cost with Binance, or if you're withdrawing funds, it's at a nominal fee of just 10 dirhams.
Some of the countries in this region are missing out because they're being too cautious on crypto.
Crypto is definitely a global and a global trend that's impacted by macro factors. So whether that's in inflation and higher interest rates.
في عالم تتسارع فيه التحولات المالية، لم تعد العملات الرقمية مجرد أداة استثمار، بل أصبحت ملفاً استراتيجياً على طاولات صناع القرار. هذا القطاع يفرض واقعاً جديداً على الحكومات والبنوك، واقع يتطلب سياسات مرنة وتشريعات قادرة على مواكبة الابتكار دون الإخلال بالاستقرار المالي. الإمارات تقدم نموذجاً لافتاً في هذا السياق من خلال أطر تنظيمية متخصصة وتكامل متنام بين الجهات الرقابية والمؤسسات المالية، ما يعكس توجهاً واضحاً نحو بناء مركز عالمي للأصول الرقمية. هذه التحولات لا تعيد تشكيل الأسواق فقط، بل تمتد لتؤثر في مستقبل السياسات النقدية ودور البنوك وطبيعة النظام المالي العالمي ككل. فكيف تصنع القرارات في هذا القطاع سريع التطور؟ وكيف يمكن تحقيق التوازن بين الابتكار وإدارة المخاطر؟ وهل تتحول التجربة الإماراتية إلى نموذج عالمي يحتذى؟ للإجابة عن هذه التساؤلات نستضيف اليوم في حوار وقرار طارق الرئيس الإقليمي لمنطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا وتركيا في بينانس.
Tarek, it's such a pleasure to have you with us on CNN Business Arabic.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Tarek, last week Binance launched AED regulated deposit and withdrawal services with ADCB Bank. So basically, how do AED on-off ramps help the UAE become a global hub for crypto, especially while Europe and Asia are developing this market a lot?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for exchanges, still the lifeblood of powering them, it's essential to have consistent fiat on and off ramps to allow people to deposit their money and then buy digital assets to, be able to access, let's say, wider crypto products or to sell crypto holdings they have and in a secure way, sell it and be able to withdraw to their bank account. So this is not something that we have clarity in every jurisdiction. So here in the UAE, you're required to have a bank account of this nature for safeguarding of funds. So we're meeting our regulatory requirement while also providing a better customer experience to be able to get on our platform and deposit or withdraw funds in an easy way.
So how will this announcement change the outlook here in the UAE?
So I think it changes it quite significantly, and we are quite ambitious about what this is going to bring in terms of growing our business here in the UAE. So traditionally, to get money on and off crypto exchanges came with a lot of friction. You were going through third-party payment providers or card acquirers who generally had very high fees or slow settlement times. And this is, I think, making it the path of least resistance to, from your own bank account, deposit funds at no cost with Binance, or if you're withdrawing funds, it's at a nominal fee of just 10 dirhams. So we're basically making it as easy and frictionless as possible for users to deposit or withdraw funds with our banking channel. And that also lets us grow in also our institutional business. So large proprietary traders, family offices, hedge funds. This is the kind of sophistication that they would expect. And it allows us to grow our OTC business or open up, I think, just new customer base who had been waiting on this. So we're quite excited and just optimistic about how it's going to enable further growth.
Here comes a very important question. How is the UAE balancing crypto innovation with managing risks?
Yeah, so we've been in a, I think, a market with a lot of innovation and I think investment into the digital asset space. You see that with the different regulators here, whether that's VARA, who is sort of the first of its kind for a crypto-specific regulator. And then you also have ADGM to serve, I think, global markets is by design, where we've recently, as of January, launched our global business from ADGM. So they're acting almost as like the control and filter to make sure that the products that are being made available and services that are launching from a regulated space are done so in a compliant and regulatory focused way, but also keep bearing in mind that innovation is really important for our industry. So they consult with us, we work on best practices, best policies to ensure that not only we're acting from a very customer-centric standpoint and innovation standpoint, but also able to operate in a regulated environment, similar to any bank or financial institution would do.
And how do you think AED-based crypto trading can improve efficiency without challenging currency risks?
Well, here, if you're a retail user or even a large institution based in the UAE, this is generally the currency that you're doing business in. So it saves you on FX costs or switching to another currency to be able to trade crypto. So AED also has the benefit of being pegged to the US dollar. So I think that improves, I think, just the experience and I think costs quite significantly. But people tend to, and especially on the retail side, want to use their own native currency to be able to access any financial service, let alone crypto. But for us, providing it is a huge benefit to our customer base. And
can the UAE regulated crypto banking become a global model, in your opinion?
I really think so. And we're seeing this as new jurisdictions look at the UAE as an example of effective but innovative crypto regulation. And with the ability for banks to support exchanges or digital asset native businesses, that it gives a lot of clarity and ability for businesses to localize and invest and build teams to be able to, I think, offer these services. So banking clarity and just the ability that the banks are open to work with exchange or digital asset clients is a huge benefit.
What regulation, in your opinion, makes the difference here in the UAE?
Yeah, so I've highlighted two, both VARA and ADGM. So I'll just start with from VARA. This is a crypto-first focused regulation where we're able to operate our exchange business, broker-dealer, custody, and offer crypto derivatives. So it's very tailored to each specific activity of our services that we have. And the ADGM setup is really ideal for a large global business such as Bynan's with over 300 million users, that it can operate from a regulated environment in a first-tier financial market and be able to have access to banking and I think not only regional but global reach. So that's what I think makes this a really good example of a successful setup.
And what do you think needs to happen in Saudi Arabia to be able to integrate the crypto as it is integrated in the UAE system?
Yes, of course, this is one of the biggest markets in the GCC and regionally, but I'll speak more generally of what makes best practices.
Yes.
So I think that's clear regulation that's digital asset focused, and sometimes we see that crypto can be shoehorned into existing securities or commodities or just banking regulations that don't quite make sense. So if you have, I think, a native crypto, I think, regulatory framework, that's the first thing we look for. Second is the ability for banks to be able to support those licensed institutions. And third is just a market where people are interested in, and I think this case that certainly is true.
So going back to Turkey, where you're partly from.
Yes.
So how is currency instability in Turkey changing crypto from an investment to a store of value?
Well, I think this is a good example where the environment drove, I think, people to learn very quickly about the asset class, become very educated in what is crypto, to being able to access crypto services. And I think the market has responded also with clear regulatory framework for businesses to operate there. And what we see with very significant customer activity and volumes in Turkey is of course, we've seen that adoption happen. And so Turkey is a great example of what we can expect from other markets where you're able to operate, you have that regulatory clarity, and a population who's educated and interested in the asset class.
You think some of the countries in this region are missing out because they're being too cautious on crypto?
Well, these things take time, and we're still in what I consider very early days. I've been working in crypto since 2017. The progress that I've seen in just that short amount of time is really astounding. From a market standpoint, you're going to need some level of crypto regulation because the asset class and the products are here to stay, and it's something that people want, both from retail and institutional side. So we're seeing a lot of development, but I hope they're looking at UAE as a best practices case for how you can regulate it and offer it in like a safe and compliant manner.
So if we want to talk about the other Gulf countries like Qatar, like Bahrain, how can they develop this market?
Yes, so I think what they can do is look at it from a policy standpoint of how are we going to localize what we may have in the existing financial regulations and tailor it to having digital assets as an activity where financial institutions can offer crypto. So I think that's where the gap is, where we're still seeing policy development to come out with a regulatory framework. So as I said, I think it takes time, but I'm seeing it move in the right direction.
So regulation, it all starts with the regulation.
That's basically the building block,
Yeah.
because that gives people the assurance of, I think, consumer protection and best practices, and also from, you look at concerns with AML or sanctions, so you need to have the compliance controls in place to operate any financial service, from a bank to e-money services to crypto. So we all kind of fall under those same requirements.
So in African Arab countries like Morocco, where rules are actually unclear regarding the crypto markets, how can exchanges operate responsibly, in your opinion?
Well, you, at this point, couldn't operate in a totally local way. You would basically have to, I think, offer your services from a global basis. And once their regulatory frameworks or ability to register or become licensed is available, then you look at what's the path to localization, setting up a local entity with the correct authorities. So it's case-by-case basis. Every market has its own unique requirements.
So Tarek, from your position, will CBDCs in the Gulf, will it support crypto or compete with it?
I think they're going to work in parallel, because I think the case study that we have right now is stable coins, and it's predominantly US dollar denominated ones. And that is what is the settlement layer for crypto trading at the moment, and how large amounts of assets are moved in a frictionless way. CBDCs can do the same thing. And I think where, in my personal opinion, it's going to add the most value is settlement amongst large commercial and retail banks, settling with central banks. So that's going to essentially replace the plumbing of expensive and slow settlement and fiat processes in a more efficient way that's leveraging the same technology of blockchain that crypto is doing now.
And what do you see Binance's role in countries like Kuwait and Oman, where the rules are still developing regarding crypto markets?
Well, we are, as the world's largest exchange, an example of, I think, applying best practices, compliance controls, and really, I think, consumer focused when it comes to consumer protection. So I think we can be looked at as a case study of, this is an exchange that has grown very rapidly, is doing things in a compliant manner and offering really exciting, innovative services. So anything from payments to remittances, or just accessing hundreds of different digital assets, I think is a good example to look to for markets that are seeing, okay, how do we, in a smart way, develop our crypto ecosystem?
If we want to talk about the region in general, do you think crypto adoption will depend more on local factors and less on global trends?
Well, I think it's about interoperability locally. So if you're set up, let's say here in the UAE, that may give you permission to operate within the GCC or wider region. So that's something that I would hope to see. But crypto is definitely a global and a global trend that's impacted by macro factors. So whether that's inflation and higher interest rates, that really moves the market in crypto. But I think what we're seeing, and I like to give it at just your everyday person scale, where you're wanting to pay for goods and services, or just being able to access Bitcoin as part of your portfolio, making that easier has I think, a combined effect of many people are doing this and adopting it, and that impacts the wider market.
So, Tarek, from your standpoint or your position or your expertise, why do you keep on advising investors to keep on investing in crypto, and why will it continue to be a good investment?
I can't give financial advice, but what I can share is just basically the direction of where I think the industry is going and what we're building at Binance. So Binance has become the world's largest crypto exchange, but recently we're starting to offer more financial services with the launch of US equities and payment and kind of fiat native products. And that's the trend we're going to continue to build on to become a financial super app. And this is what's laying the groundwork from going to 300 to 1 billion users for Binance. And I think I'll add, I'm in a privileged position where I see the building that's being done across financial institutions, especially in the banking space, that are investing heavily in building infrastructure for this asset class. So our engagements with bank partners, regulators, when it comes to crypto, has not slowed down in any way. So we're continuing to build and to become, I think, the most trusted financial super app that is crypto native.
So Tarek, always the best of luck, and it was a great pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you as well. Pleasure.